Colin Cowherd and Mike Silver both said that they had sources. They even said, do we have the same source? And we're going to talk about who that source might be later. They said basically that the Niners are concerned about Trey Lance. Colin Cowherd got very specific. He said that his delivery aesthetically is ugly, that he's rebuilding his delivery, that he gets arm fatigue, that he puts so much effort into throwing the football. It's not an easy throw, that he actually needs days off in between throwing. This is all stuff that Colin Cowherd said, and also that the Niners are worried about his accuracy. And then Silver went on and said, well, I mean, there's evidence, like the fact that they wanted to have a Trey Lance package and they scrapped it. The fact that they didn't replace Jimmy Garoppolo with Lance after starting 3-5. This is all stuff that they said, buy or sell it in your eyes.
I'll buy some of it, right? I think we've both talked kind of at length about his throwing motion, and
I called it funky.
Yeah, he doesn't throw a pretty ball. That's true. It's a wobbly ball. Yeah. I think you said about talk about how the great quarterbacks throw a beautiful ball, and you had questions of whether or not he could become one of those great ones, because you can't think of a great quarterback where you're like, wow, it's kind of an ugly ball, right? Like they all pretty much.
I guess Peyton Manning would be the one.
But even if you look
no one's confusing Trey Lance with Peyton Manning, they're very different.
Well, but also I think people think Peyton Manning later in his career. If you watch Peyton Manning, he was throwing spirals early in his career. Like
true.
He had the neck issue, and then he was throwing an ugly ball. So I think you talk about that. So I agree with that part. The other part about why they made the switch at 3-5, or didn't make the switch at 3-5. I think that had more to do with them just, or even players coming to them just like, why are we keep going back and forth between these two quarterbacks? Let's go with Jimmy and go like that. And then also, right, he was injured. Trey Lance was injured, right? He had a pinky issue. That's why Shanahan basically used him as a running back.
There's that.
Right, and there's that. So I'll buy the stuff about the ugly ball, but the other stuff, I don't think so. What'd you say?
Arm fatigue.
The arm fatigue. I've never heard.
First time we've heard this either. Like
I've
what?
never heard of. I've never in coaching football, and again, I coach high school, so I've never heard of arm fatigue. And I've been on teams where we basically had one kid that basically could throw the football, and he threw for everything. He threw an offense, and then when we did first team defense, he would switch over, he would go on the other. So this is a guy that's throwing all the time. Never heard of. Now, as a younger kid, I've never heard of arm fatigue. I don't know. I don't know if this if maybe what happened was Trey Lance had some arm soreness and it kept him out of practice for a couple days, and then they're just now someone's repeating this and saying, oh well, he missed days because of arm fatigue just because he had one bout of soreness, or and the other thing he might have had arm fatigue from having to didn't he say he had to change his throwing motion and adjust for the broken pinky, right? Or the index finger. I'm sorry, index finger. So that might have happened when he broke the index finger, and it might have been a result of that broken index finger and him having to change his throwing motion, and because of it.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Look, what Cowherd said, I'm not going to dispute any of it. These guys clearly talked to someone high up in the organization. Aesthetically ugly delivery, yeah, I call it funky. Arm fatigue, I can't speak to it, but watching him throw, I've never felt like some people say, man, it's just effortless the way he throws, or it explodes out of his hands. That's not Trey. Trey's very effortful in the way he throws. Like you can almost hear him grunt when he throws, and it's commendable. I mean, he could put a lot of mustard on it, but I think maybe that's contributing to some soreness. If you throw really hard, maybe you're going to be a little sore. Maybe he should ice his shoulder after he throws. I don't know. It's a baseball trick. Or maybe he just needs to take a little bit off sometimes. I mean, these are things you can work on as a 22-year-old. It's not a deal breaker. Worried about his accuracy? Yeah. But, if Colin Cowherd had been at minicamp or asked anyone that was, they'd know that he just really was extremely accurate at minicamp. And, D'Amico Ryan spoke about it. A lot of people spoke about it. The thing that Silver said, his conclusions though, first of all, the Lance package went away, and that indicated concern. It wasn't successful. it wasn't adding anything to the offense, like him coming in and being a running back 3 times a game. And it seemed pretty clear that the locker room was heavily against it. So why continue with it? And then the fact that he didn't replace Jimmy. I mean, I was campaigning for it throughout the season, but I think from Kyle's perspective, like he didn't prepare Trey to start last year. He gave 95% of the first team reps in camp to Jimmy. And to bring in Trey would be waving the white flag on the season because he wasn't prepared for it. He's 21 years old, hadn't gotten the reps, a lot to ask. I still felt that he'd be better than Jimmy Garoppolo, given all of that. But this is a different situation. He's getting the reps. And I mean, if Jimmy Garoppolo is starting week 1, then Silver's right, but I don't think he will be. And that brings into question a lot of Silver's conclusions.
Yeah, I think didn't he say like one of the things he was comparing him to Josh Allen and said it's not often that you get a 55% when he's talking about accuracy 55% passer that then turns into Josh Allen is able to improve his accuracy that much. But I don't believe where is this notion that Trey Lance is inaccurate coming from? Like I don't, didn't he had like he completed 57% of his passes last year in 2 games. So you can't really extrapolate that out 2 games amongst an entire season. I mean, that's not fair. So then you got to look at his college, and he wasn't.
Also, real quick, the Josh Allen thing. He completed 53% of his passes year 1, 58 year 2, 69 year 3, and then 63 year 4. So he's only done it once. I mean, 3 out of the 4 years he was like below average in completion.
Right, and he started out with 53. Trey Lance completed 50. Trey Lance completed 57. And I don't know if you look at it, but what did he complete in the Texans game? Because you kind of throw that
damn near 70.
Yeah, you can kind of throw the Arizona one out, but then if you look at his college stats, he completed like 66% of his pass. I think Josh Allen was in the 50s in college, so like not the same. Okay,
not the same at all. Not the same. So I think these concerns. I mean, maybe the Niners are just. To me, this is just the Niners being nervous before taking a leap of faith on a young guy, and I don't know why they're expressing these concerns to Colin Cowherd and Mike Silver off the record, but they seem to be doing that. So fine. Whatever. It just seems to me that maybe Colin and Silver built it up a little bit to be a little bit more concerning than it really is. Like, I think we knew these things already. The stuff about the arm fatigue is, I guess we'll see in training camp. I didn't notice it in training. I watched him throw every day in training camp last year. I didn't see him.
Grant, maybe ask him during training camp. It's like, do you ever get arm fatigue?
That's a fair question, man. A lot of people are talking about arm fatigue. I don't even know what that means. I'm guessing it means soreness. Does that happen? And
have you ever had to sit out practice because of your arm soreness or arm fatigue?
Yeah. Does it affect you in any way? That's a fair question.
Yeah.
Amtod99 says Colin's logic is that there was less noise and less people saying how great Mahomes and Herbert were, but the reason people hype up Trey is to defend from hate.
I think what people are putting, like he doesn't have to be Mahomes or Herbert. Like, it'd be ideal, right? If he's like that, but he just has to be a little bit better than Garoppolo.
Is it fair to say that Kyle also does not have great conviction in the quarterback position? I mean, he's constantly waffling between 2 options. He's not like Andy Reid. Andy Reid was 100% behind Donovan McNabb for a long time. Then he was 100% behind Alex Reid and then Alex Smith and then Patrick Mahomes. He never was like, well, I got these 2 guys. Let's see who works out. Kyle's like that. So I just feel like it's a different nature. I mean, when has Kyle ever been super enthusiastic about his starting quarterback? Ever. Kirk was not his starting quarterback. Ever.
Yeah.
It was his backup. He loves his backup. I'm just saying. Couple more comments and then we'll move on. The regular Ryan says, didn't Gabbert start 2015 because Cap had dead arm? Cap was coming off shoulder surgery. So maybe Jimmy's going to be the one with arm fatigue this offseason. I'd like to see. Arian A says Colin used to praise Trey a ton last season. Ever since the rumor goes Lance broke up with his daughter, he started talking smack. Trust fam, all smoke. I was just looking that up before the show started. When did they break up? Can anyone tell me that? When was the timeline on the breakup?
I remember when I remember when they were friends and Colin was promoting Trey Lance and he was all about Trey Lance.
I gotta say, Cowherd and Silver had very little nice things to say about Lance. What they said was he's extremely intelligent, he's very athletic, and he throws hard. To me, when you're talking about a quarterback, that's patronizing. The second two things a lot of people feel don't translate to the NFL. And the first thing is being like, well, he's really smart. Yeah. It's just that he's an athlete. It's not going to work. Like, I don't know. So that's the nicest thing they could say about Trey Lance in this thing. That Niner guy says the source of the arm fatigue is Jimmy. LOL. Who is saying this is the question? They heard it somewhere or they wouldn't say it. This is all bull. Well, we're going to hypothesize on who the source or sources might be at the end. But we're going to make you wait for that. Voice ad agency says, I think it's fair for us to argue that Lance is definitely more accurate than Jimmy Garoppolo in clutch moments. I'll take my chances with the kid.
Yeah. Let's talk about I think maybe I'm not going to say Lance is like perfectly accurate. I mean, he'll miss, but it's not like I wouldn't say he's inaccurate, right? I mean,
I don't think so. No. I mean, in that game against Arizona where he had a low completion percentage, I think he had 3 drops, and I think he had 4 passes knocked down at the line of scrimmage. Now, maybe some of those batted down passes are partially on him, but it's one game, and it explains why his completion percentage was much lower in that one than the other 2 appearances he had.
I think the biggest issue, at least last year, was the inaccuracy over the middle. Over the middle where Jimmy excels, but in the other places, I thought he was pretty accurate. I mean, and then the other gripe we've talked is the wobbly ball, which I think hurt him.
Well, I think what concerned me last year was not just it was when he missed over the middle, he missed high, and to me, it was like, well, you're going to throw a lot of picks, and then also it was just throwing short passes way too hard. To me, in camp, he wasn't doing that, and he doesn't.
Looked like it was by all accounts, it looked like it was corrected. Now we'll see, as training camp comes along.